boys and girls. Today we are going to talk about our treble clef staff. I want to start with the very basic, and that is just the staff. The staff is the home where music lives. The staff is only made up of 5 lines, and those 5 lines create the 4 spaces. That is our basic staff. Now, when we put our treble clef on the staff, that makes this staff the treble clef staff. So the pitches that are going to live in this home, on this staff, are going to be higher pitches, the pitches that women and children use when they sing. So today we're going to talk about the names of each of these lines and spaces. They each have an individual name, and that tells you what pitch that line or space is. We are also going to talk about 2 pitches that are above the staff and 2 pitches that are below the staff. Now, when we name our pitches in music, we use alphabetical letters. We use our normal alphabet that we all learned when we were little, although we don't use the whole alphabet. We will just use A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now we can clearly see there are more than just 7 pitches that live on this staff. When we get to G, we start the whole order again. So once we get to G, the next pitch will be A. So let's get started. We're going to start with our lines, and we have some sentences that help us remember the names of the lines. I have 3 sentences. There's no need to memorize all 3. Pick the one that you like the best and remember that one, because each of the 3 sentences tell us exactly the same thing. The first sentence is, every good boy does fine. And you will notice that the first letter of every word is underlined, because those are the names of our lines. Another sentence you could memorize is, every good boy deserves fudge. It's very similar to the first, but a little different. And then the third sentence, empty garbage before Dad flips. Now, if you look at all 3 of those sentences, you can see that the first word begins with E. That is because the first line of the treble clef staff, that pitch name, that line name, is E. And when I write that on the staff, I want that line to cut my pitch name in half. That way I know it is naming that line. The second word of every sentence is a G word. That's because line 2 is G. Again, I want that line to cut my pitch name in half so that I know it is the name of that second line. The third word all begin with the letter B. Line 3 is B. Again, the line is cutting it in half. The fourth word, all of the fourth words start with the letter D. Line 4 is D. And finally, the 5th word of each of these sentences begins with F. And that is because line 5 is F. So if we look at our staff and say our sentence, every good boy does fine. Every good boy deserves fudge. And finally, empty garbage before Dad flips. I recommend just memorizing one of those sentences because all 3 tell us the same thing. It's just a trick to remember the names of your lines of the treble clef staff. Now your spaces, we have 4 spaces. Our spaces actually spell a word all on their own, and it is face. The first letter underlined is F, second is A, third is C, and fourth is E. And that is because space 1 on the treble clef staff is F. Space 2 is A. Space 3 is C. And space 4 is E. Now, boys and girls, this staff is also known, it's kind of another trick, as the people clef. Because if all three of these sentences are talking about people, boy, dad, and then our face is something of a person. So to help you remember which are the sentences and words that belong with the treble clef, a lot of times people will say it is the people staff. And hopefully that will remind you, oh, it's my sentences about a boy or a dad, and it's about the face. Now, we also, I told you we were going to learn 1 step below the staff and 2 steps below the staff. I also told you we would learn 1 step above the staff and 2 steps above the staff. Now, boys and girls, I can go as low as I would like, going down under the staff. I just have to go continue the pattern of space, line, space, line. Adding these little lines below or above the staff, those little lines are called ledger lines. And so as I go down, I can just keep adding more ledger lines to get lower, or more ledger lines to get higher. Below the staff and above the staff keeps the same pattern. You have a line on the staff and then a space, and then a line and then a space. Line, space, line, space, line. So the next step, if I'm sitting on a line, the next step has to be a space. And sure enough, that is a space note. But after space, I have to go to another line. And that is why we add that ledger line. It's a little higher than the space because we're stepping out of the space onto the line. And sure enough, 2 steps above is a line note. If we go to the bottom, I'm standing on a line. I must go to a space next. So I take 1 step down. Sure enough, that is a space note. If I take another step down, if I'm in a space, I must step down to a line. And sure enough, there is a little ledger line. It is lower than the space, and it is a line note. Now, let's talk about what are their names of those 4 pitches. If you look at our staff, which we have already labeled, our alphabet letters go in order and then repeat at A. Line 1 is E. So I'm standing on line 1, E. So then I have to go to a space, and sure enough, the next space is F. After a space, I have to go to a line, the next line, G. After a line, I have to go to a space, the next space, we start again at A. Then up to a line, B, up to a space, C, up to a line, D, up to a space, E, up to a line, F. And boys and girls, I'm sure you can tell me what is the name of that space note if you are staying in order. And you would be correct, it is G. Now, after G, remember we're going to start again. And so we're in a space, we have to step up onto the line, and the next pitch would be A, and that is correct. Once the space above the staff, 1 step above the staff, is a G. That would be considered high G, whereas this is low G. 2 steps, space, then line above the staff is A. That would be considered high A, whereas this is low A. So we figured out the 2 steps above the staff, and we still have our 2 steps below the staff. Now, if we are walking up the staff like we just did, we go in order, and when we get to G, we start again at A. But if we walk down the staff, we actually go backwards in the alphabet. So let's see if that's really true. I'm 2 steps above on A, I step down to G. Then I step down on the line to F, space to E, line to D, space to C, line to B, space to A, line to G, going backwards, space to F, line to E, And boys and girls, once again, I know you can tell me, what would that pitch name be? One step below the staff. And you would be right. It is D. Because we continue going backwards. If the first step below the staff is a space note and it is D, I want to step down one more step to one line below the staff. So that pitch name, I go backwards one more step, would be C. Boys and girls, these are the pitches of our treble clef staff. You can learn them using the sentence that you prefer for the lines, and then the word face for the spaces, and then just figure up what the other two pitches above and below would be. Or another trick, if you can remember, 2 steps below is C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So there's different ways that you can remember these pitches and their orders. I recommend do whatever is easiest for you and what makes sense to you.